This is 2OF Entertainment.
Wow, good day.
Good
Welcome
day.
to the Canadian Art Today. David, how are you doing?
Good, good. So how are you doing? You still shoveling snow or?
No, we're slowly watching it melt, which is great. And then it'll snow again, and then it'll melt, and then it'll snow again. We're at
Yeah.
that stage, but no, days are getting longer and more art being done, and people getting out and around a bit more. So that's a good thing
Okay.
here in Canada.
Yeah. I
Uh,
always have the impression in Canada you're always under at least 2 meters of snow all the time. That's the sort of
well, yeah,
impression I get.
somewhere there is always, but hopefully we do get a melt occasionally, and we do get some warm weather that we're kind of looking forward to. But we can talk
Okay.
about that as it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, today we're just gonna, you know, I don't know how many artists actually have the opportunity to talk to artists that they're beloved artists and in the past, so they've gone. So our featured artist today is Jane Irwin, who has had conversations with Van Gogh.
Oh,
And so we're going to go through how she does that. I mean, and I mean, we're talking about a reaction of the conversation maybe in your head that is happening onto a piece of paper, or I think most of hers are drawings and things that she's done. She's a graduate of Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick, and had a career in architectural glass, but now she's doing drawings in some of her shows and installations and things. But we're going to talk to her about her, I get the dreamscapes and the things that can happen that generate unique pieces of work. And I mean,
okay.
how do you find your voice, as they say, right? And we're
Yeah.
going to see how Jane has done that. Maybe bring Jane in here, and we'll
Okay. Let's bring
talk with
her.
her.
Good.
Hello.
Good day
Good
to you,
morning.
Shane.
Morning.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. Well, a fantastic introduction by Paul. I'm going to slip away very quietly, and I hope you guys have a great show. So I'll
Oh,
speak
we
to you at
will.
the
Yeah,
end.
lots to
Yeah.
talk about. Yeah.
Okay. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
thanks, Dave. Well, good morning to you.
Good
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah. Well, exciting. You know, when I first read some of your stuff that you sent when we started organizing this show, and the one talking to Van Gogh, I mean, it was like, wow, how is this going to happen? Um, can you first of all, we're just going to back up a little bit before we do that. Just a little bit about your art journey as to what did you do like for the last 40 some years, and say your expertise in one area, and you've got a BFA in art in drawing. I guess initially as a major, I would think that was your major, was drawing. Can you help us, just lead us through some of that a little bit for your the beginning stages? Then we'll get right into what's happening today.
Well, sure. And let me see. I was one of those kids who was always drawing. Like many artists that can trace their interest in drawing and painting to the earliest memories. Really, it was not. I didn't think of myself as anything special. I was just. That just captivated me. I did a lot of crayon stuff and colored pencil stuff, and just was interested in materials in a consistent but not a serious way, in a kid-like way. And then decided to put together a portfolio to try to get a position at art school, and then I studied for 4 years with all the basics being covered. A lot of drawing, a lot of figurative work. We did sculpture, printmaking, various kinds of painting, and always art history. So knew about Van Gogh from those very early days, and was completely captivated with his colors and with his story. The two kind of go together. His art and his story are intertwined in our minds.
I'm gonna get David to start our first image up, and we can talk a little bit about the series. There we go. So, I mean, they're somewhat surreal. I mean, you're inspired by this conversation, and where did the conversation come from? Where the tangible words, where did those come from for you to build your story around it?
Well, as I say, I was always drawn to the work itself. There seems to be some great accessibility to the images he created. They continue to resonate with us despite the many years that have passed since he did them. But it was recently that I read for the first time his letters to his brother. So that was a real eye opener for me. I read what an articulate person he was. He was very self-aware. He was extremely intelligent. He spoke many languages. And he sort of poured his heart out to his brother of his frustrations and his sorrows. And he created this incredible story of discussing his artwork through his letters with his brother, the person that he trusted the most. And you're probably aware of the financial support from his brother that allowed his paintings to be produced. So Theo and Vincent had this symbiotic relationship that was,
letter writing was prolific in those days. I mean, that was the communication. There was no phone. There was not a lot of, they didn't have that access, but letter writing was valued. Someone would write daily to people and mail that conversation, not unlike email of today. They would write whatever's happening that day. But to keep a volume of letters is an amazing archive of the day and how one is feeling. And I mean, he empathized with a lot of just the working class, the people, life in the field and life in, the hardships that people went through.
Yes.
I think he felt for those people. So now you take that knowledge, and we have a communication device here called telephone in the drawing, and bringing it into today's world with I guess a Van Goghish edge to it, not necessarily even in a little bit of palette, but in subject matter.
What's going on here is this is a telephone booth that's in a park where I live in downtown Toronto, and I saw it, and maybe I'd passed it many times, but suddenly I saw it, and it struck me as from another time. Most of us communicate with cell phones, but this is operational, and I actually had an opportunity to speak with the engineer who services these, and he said he has a small business where he's got 200 of these all around the city of Toronto, and they're used. So once you see one, you start to see many, and it struck me as a wonderful communication link, and I kind of built up this idea of having a conversation with Vincent using certain phrases that I had found so touching and haunting, that I'd written in a book as I was reading the letters. And then I also have an archive of old letters myself. I was a big letter writer before email, and I have many of those letters myself, and I kind of mined those and inserted words between the two of us that it created a present day conversation of sorts based around imagery from my neighborhood. In this picture, there's 4 figures. There's 3 of them are based on shadows of me, and then there's a little figure of Vincent at the back with his palette, his kit, heading out to paint. And
Okay.
I've got the reference to the Starry Night in some regard up top with some expressions that he wrote to Theo describing that piece.
Yeah.
And,
No, it's
kind of pull that together. And there's also graffiti on the telephone booth, which is another communication, scratching the words into the paint. And
right. No, it's you have this tangible object, a phone, and a lot of us know what that is. And the people become very obscured, and they're like ghost-like figures and you can feel this conversation. Me not understanding that I would look at this and say, "Oh, this is a Van Gogh." You don't.
no,
I think you need the story. Are you a poetry writer as well? Do you like poetry and do those things?
I love poetry. I don't write it. I used to when I was younger, but that's not something I do now. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm fascinated by poetry.
Yeah. This one really has that feeling of Starry Night,
Yeah, this is another view from my neighborhood. I live near a baseball diamond where there's outdoor games at night. And so the big shapes in the sky are actually the night lights that have come on to illuminate the ball field. And the view across the park to the western horizon. And I use the Starry Night as sort of an inspiration. This piece is called Starry Night Game with the picture on the mound there.
Do you think it's important to have these dreamscapes within our work to create individuality and uniqueness?
Well, I find that I can compile different ideas using that kind of strategy. So instead of just sitting and replicating exactly what I see, I can put in things into the picture that maybe happened at a different time in a different place. And there's sort of this collaging and layering of ideas, and memory and dream ideas are definitely part of that sort of raw material that always seems to be swirling around in my mind, and that I can kind of grab and insert into a work if it seems appropriate.
I find with dreams that you have dreams, and some are more prolific than others in your dreams that you have, but they tend to be, I would say, things that resonate with you, that you generate these visuals when you at night or when you're sleeping or whatever. So if you can draw from that strength, you've already kind of filtered down maybe what scares you, what your different senses that you might have, and your dreams are valuable information for you as a resource to figure out, are you brave enough to paint and draw your dreams? I don't know how many people are. Some of them are pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Your work kind of has an abstractness to it, but there's a surreal edge about it as well. And I think that's a uniqueness. Like it really has a strength of individuality. And I think, whether other people buy into it or not, sometimes it just takes a while for people to understand where you're coming from. And sometimes you need to do more of it. Like, source it out. And do you find that as you work it, it refines a bit more?
Yes, absolutely. The ideas are there, the inspiration, the impetus to get started on the piece. I'll do sketching and work out sort of rough ideas of how the picture should look compositionally, but I don't work everything out. So as I'm working on it, then other things come into play and other ideas present themselves. I'm always looking back at my sketchbooks and
Yeah.
all the different ways that I try to, have a resource of materials and ideas that I'm interested in. I've lots of photographs that I repeatedly look at, and I keep journals. So I've got a lot of reference material that sort of finds its way into the picture as the picture starts to take shape. And so that's an exciting part of the process. For me, I don't know exactly how it's all going to end up, and that keeps it very lively and energetic for me.
Yeah. No, I think it's sketchbooks are valuable. I mean, they're our diary. Really,
Yeah.
I think it's valuable to go back and see what you did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. How in your 40-year career in architectural glass, um, is that helped a little bit in your structures that you build, clarity, understanding of color and the structures, and yeah, how is that? Is it helped, or are you doing opposite of what you used to do, or are they belong together?
I
I'm gonna
think I can see the correlation between the two. Definitely, structure is part of the stained glass world. You have to really pre-plan and or organize how the window will be designed and fabricated and installed actually before you even start. So there's a lot of planning that goes into it, and then the colors themselves, the transparency of the glass is quite complementary to the watercolor. This image is a watercolor. The previous two were colored pencil drawings, but this is a watercolor painting. So I see a lot of similarities with the way that glass behaves with light,
Mhm.
with the watercolor.
Yeah. No, it's I like the simplicity of it, yet you still get a feeling as to what's happening, and there's some reflection, and there's all these things that I'm just saying it does show up in glass, because glass has to deal with reflection as well as transparency.
Yeah.
And depending on the reflective light, or whether it's internal light that it's illuminating the panel. But trying to capture that feeling in pigment is sometimes a challenge. But I think with good clarity and color, I think this one really has a really nice design feel about it. It's a nice fresh, like I'll call it fresh watercolor, and some nice experience with that. Was this part of the Van Gogh thing a little bit as well, or is that?
No,
uh,
this is a separate piece. I do a lot of floral work, and this was, sort of ongoing floral watercolor.
yeah,
Paint.
compositions, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one of the landscapes we're putting in here. We don't have a lot of landscape. We're talking a lot of really unique pieces of work coming up, mostly in the drawing aspects of what you do. Um, so are you a plein air painter as well? Do you like to
Yes.
do? Yeah,
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 I get out as much as I can. Of course, through the summer months, out. This is Georgian Bay, which is a favorite spot, and but I've painted in on the East Coast many times. I've made specific painting trips to Newfoundland over the years, and but this is Georgian Bay, and this is a watercolor with colored pencil combination, so a mixed media piece,
mhm,
and kind of a zigzag composition here that um, I thought was an intriguing way to show the sort of iconic parts of Georgian Bay landscape, that being the incredible rocks, the colors and the texture of these exposed rocks, just unbelievable. And they're kind of looming through the water, and they come up on the shore, and then the wildflowers growing on this little strip of grass right at the water's edge, and then of course the pines, the white pines that are sometimes really wonky shapes and pushed over to one side by the wind, and so they lots of character in that landscape.
yeah.
And
Well, you also do some residencies in like Fogo Island and Newfoundland, and you've gone there a couple of times, and it's a little austere at times. That when you go to, you got to definitely bring your imagination with you a little bit because it's pretty bleak. If the weather comes in on you, it's really bleak.
It,
My
it,
understanding.
it can be pretty rugged, and but it's very elemental, and it also has sort of a dreamlike quality for me anyway. I'm not a Newfoundlander. I only visit there, so maybe that's part of what I respond to. But everything sort of seems slightly touched with magic there. The closeness of the water and the ruggedness of the land, and yeah, and this, I guess, some of the similar things that I respond to in Georgian Bay, the riot of color in the wildflowers and the lichens. So it's a very colorful landscape.
Yeah.
But there's grayness there too, and
Yeah, what I like about it, it's hard when you paint in that area and not bring a full palette of color sometimes. So they tend to have that G of 7 group look of paintings, and trying to find your own words on that, and visual is saying this is my response to the land, which could be similar, but it's your own individual piece. It's really hard to find sometimes. There's so many artists paint that part of Ontario,
yeah.
It's and to find your own, say, where you can say, well, this one looks like Jane. You would not put your name on it, and people would know, and that's an amazing kudo if you can do that. If you've had enough visibility from the public to look at it. But here's another one here, another water. Is this watercolor as well?
This is watercolor and colored pencil. Another Georgian Bay landscape, and I call this sun shower. So the moment when the sun is coming out, it's still raining. It's the very end of a quick storm. Trying to find that moment where things are illuminated by the sun, but it's still shadowy and dark. And there's these two things, the rain and the sun, happening at the same time.
Yeah, being caught out in that when you're plein air painting can either be
Yeah.
inspiration, and half the time is keeping the paper nailed down so it doesn't fly up and away on you, and the winds come up. And mostly, do you do watercolor when you do on location?
I mainly do watercolor, but I've also done acrylic canvas work, plein air, and
yeah, it dries quick on you, and
it really does. Yeah, it's a whole other set of complications. The watercolor, you got to be careful; it's more fragile, and like you're saying, if it starts to rain, you have to have a way to protect it, or it'll be damaged by the rain. But yeah, the acrylics are challenging.
Yeah, no, it's we're all as artists just trying to find what works for me. Like what is the medium, and what works for one doesn't necessarily work for the other person. Watercolors to many people are frustrating, especially when they're drying fast or they leave an edge, and when you're plein air painting, you just got to move on. You can't. The one thing about it is the sunlight is moving usually pretty quickly on you. So you're not going to spend hours and hours in one spot looking at one thing, because the color and the light change so dramatically.
Yeah.
You got to get it down quick. It forces you. Yeah.
Or do a couple of paintings from a single session. That can be a good way to approach it too. Yeah.
I found either a really big brush and a large piece of paper, or a small piece of paper and a medium-sized brush. But never a small brush. But
no.
The thing is, it just depends what you're there for. If you're there just to, instead of snapshots, you're there to get small little thumbnails made of light color, whatever you're going to do. And I think it's, like I said, it's whatever works for you as to why you're there, what attracts you to that space. And I guess it just has I guess it's just a journey, right? The journey that you're on and continuing. Do you draw back a lot of times on past journeys? Like, so if you go to some areas that are familiar, you go back to those spaces and see how they change?
Sometimes, yeah. Um, Sometimes return to places in Georgian Bay that I've painted a year or two previously. But yeah, I like returning. I think there's a lot to be said for returning um, to all kinds of experiences. I think you get an opportunity to go more in depth. I think the first time through, you kind of get the lay of the land a little bit, but another chance to be there, you can go into more depth, and that's kind of in traveling. If you go to the same location rather than doing all the top spots and moving on, um,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for that.
I personally, I'll return to works that I've done 40 years ago, and I'll say, why did I do that? But then there's times you look at it and say, I caught something there I didn't realize I had.
Yeah,
And sometimes it sparks a new journey that was from the original journey. And as a naive young artist, I would say savor those moments, write everything down, because in 20 years, you're going to go back to that body of work. There's something there that you captured as a young artist that you forgot about, and you moved on, you keep moving on, you leave it behind, you realize, I better go back, and you go back and look, cup of coffee, and you start flipping through sketchbooks or old paintings, and you go, whoa, I didn't realize it did that, and
yeah.
it sparks.
I agree. Those ideas sort of circle back, and yeah, I totally agree with you, Paul. There's a lot to be gathered by reviewing your past works, and
Don't have a fire too early in your career. Leave that stacked up at mom's house or wherever you can store it in a nice dry spot, and put it in a tub or something, but then go back and journey. And you run out of room after a while. Trust me, I know.
Yeah.
You run out of room.
yeah, you've got to make some choices, but yeah, some sort of balance there between a complete purge and holding on to everything.
Well, there's nothing wrong with a nice fire once in a while. There's a real dog in your work, and you said you don't want this out there, and you need a little shot of whiskey and a bonfire with some friends, and it's a great release sometimes.
Yeah, and it makes a great subject matter for another painting to paint the bonfire of the paintings that are being burned. Is
your friends
I saw Mary Pratt painting when I was at university, and she had a bonfire in an oil drum of her throwaways, and yeah, I thought that was a wonderful image.
Yeah. And there's always artists say, don't burn that one, don't burn that. That was a good.
Yeah.
And then you put it in the fire anyway, and then they're screaming and hot. It's fun. Fun thing to do. It's like to purge a little bit of stuff. Anyway, look back to the works at hand here. So where is this located? This one? This paint?
This is Fogo Island. This is the town of Tilting, which is at the far end of the island, where I was at the artist residence for a month in 2018, and there's this wonderful trail that leads from the artist residence down to the water around the headlands and back, and it was just a very inspiring place. I was there with my sister, who's also an artist, and we just spent every day out there painting and capturing what we saw. This is a mound, a gentle mound in an otherwise flat field, and the fireweed, this pink wildflower, was blooming at the time, and it's just such a beautiful, subtle shape, but this beautiful color on top. I just found it very inspiring, and yeah, I painted it many times.
Yeah, I think you have to sometimes look down as an artist. You can't always look up. You really need, especially there, you need to find, why am I here? What is the conversation? between me and the land and what's happening. And you go, like you said, you go for that walk and you realize it's the walk. It's what it's about. Like you
Yeah.
try to simplify it and convince yourself that things are working. Like I'm here for a reason. You know, you're there for a month, and you're there to produce a body of work. I think initially that's what the intention is of those residencies. Did you have a show there as well when after you finished pieces, or?
We showed some pieces while we were there. We had a studio space that allowed us to show work, and we invited people to come and have a look at what we were doing. And there's a person there who was bringing visitors around to see our space. So he would show up with, 2 or 3 people on a fairly regular basis, and we'd show them the working space. And but then afterwards, I didn't have a specific show of the pieces from Tilting, but I'm represented by Civil Rasa Gallery in Almont, Ontario, and they hold a number of the Fogo Island pieces in the inventory.
Yeah. No, it's great that you were on the tour, right? When you get
I know. We really liked that. And we met all kinds of people, and we really enjoyed his company. You just have to say hello there, and people are so outgoing. They love to tell you their stories, their family stories.
Oh yeah.
And it's just another piece of what might kind of find its way into the drawings and paintings. So just a wonderful experience.
Yeah, no, I like it because there's no buildings, it's just the land, right? There's that response piece. And actually this, if you didn't know, could be anywhere. This could be on the edge of Lake Superior as well, right?
Yeah.
About it, but yeah.
The sky is very loose, and the shapes of the clouds are somewhat similar to the shapes of the different flower forms in the foreground. So land and sky are harmonious.
Right.
There's there's a great feeling of harmony in the land there.
Yeah, we jumped into really a dramatic change here into the next body of work of drawings and bodices and things that can you tell us a little bit about how these pieces work their way into your work, like the subject matter? And I know you travel with your sisters in a couple of places and you do some art, and we're going to talk about that as we move along through here, how that influences what you're doing. So can you tell us a little bit how the bodice artwork is coming about?
Well, I collect found objects. So I find discarded objects. People put all kinds of things out on the curb here, and I've done a lot of drawings over the years of things that I don't quite know what they are. I used to go to a metal recycling place and buy things there, and crushed electrical boxes and things of that nature. And this bodice, this was a piece that somebody just put it out on the curb for collection, and it's made of wires with these little clips you see on the front of the drawing, and it's a dressmaker's form. So, and it is somewhat adjustable because you can kind of put it on and press it to your own shape. And then if you're making a dress, it's kind of customized to,
I think these ones used to heat up a little bit, and then the wires would get softer after they heated them up, and then they put them on, and then you squish them into shape. Yeah. My wife used to have one version like this years. My mom did too, years and years ago. But I always thought that was cool.
Really appealing, just the form itself. And I brought it home and I did this drawing. And while I was researching the mannequin, I discovered that it's called My Double. And I just thought that was a fascinating name for it. I did this drawing with the sewing references. I've actually got threads along the edge of the bodice, and I've got threads along the sort of framing the piece that are reminiscent to the way that you thread a sewing machine. Those are sewn right into the paper. And then there's patterns, old patterns, and there's sewing terminology that's also part of this piece. So this piece was really about the sewing aspect, the mannequin, the dressmaking. But after I finished it, I really stayed very interested in this whole notion of my double, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I did more work with this sort of form of the bodice.
Yeah. No, it has a feeling of, I don't know, other ghosted people, fashion. There's a semblance of maybe family. There's a kind of. How large is this piece? Like, is it a full sheet of paper? Or?
This is 44 height by 30 wide.
Yeah, so it's a large piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it has a three-dimensionality to it as well, due to the nature of the bodice and that.
And enhanced by the actual threads, which are, although they're close to the paper, you can see that they're three-dimensional.
And you've got a pencil crosshatches, what you build those structures in the background with. Yeah.
No, the colored pencil, again, sort of having a close look at fabric and patterns, and creating yardage behind the pattern pieces that are laid on top.
Do you use the water-based paint that are immiscible in water as well, the pencils that melt away?
I do, yeah. I think those are really great. I don't think I used it in this. This is all colored pencil.
Yeah.
But yeah, the watercolor pencils are really so versatile. There's so many different ways you can use those. I attend figure drawing sessions on a regular basis, and find those are really great because you can draw the figure fast, but then you can soften the edges and create volume with those pencils. And they're very complementary to watercolor, palettes. So yeah, they're great.
Yeah, you could add in larger washes later or doing different things. Yeah. Take you back into this one here.
This is another of the my double. Who could my double be? Kind of, ponderings after I did the previous piece.
Yeah. And
this one is called Street Angel, and she's very ethereal, and she's in front of a grid-like, very shallow space that she inhabits, and she's kind of dissolving on the edges. And she's made up of stuff I just found, feathers and just bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's got a helmet, and it's got I do a little bit of embossing of circles into the paper that I believe sometimes uncolored like this, or sometimes I'll put them in and then put the pencil around them to really highlight the fact that they're embossed into the paper.
Yeah. You don't quite get that feeling on this visual because it's hard to see. It's very light.
It's very light. Yeah, difficult to show that because it's really only articulated by the shadows around those embossings. So it's very delicate.
Yeah.
But I like delicacy in art. I like that you have to get close to see some things. If everything sort of hits you over the head from 10 feet away, that's one experience. But I like really getting up close. I'm one of those people who's always being told by the guards at the museum to back away, because I really want to see very closely. I want to see the surface. I want to see all the subtleties. So
I think we've gone to early periods where they would let you up really close, actually paint in the gallery if you wanted to replicate something and study a painting. They won't let you do that anymore. People are too cautious with, unless maybe you've got a special accreditation. You're not going to deface a painting with some
Right. Yeah.
big, excuse me.
Kiss the canvas with your bright red lipstick or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember being like, I was in front of West Wind one time and years ago, and there was nobody in the gallery, and the guard said, "You want to do a drawing?" I was just sketching with a book, and I said,
Oh,
"No." I said, I didn't bring my paints with me or anything, but they offered if I wanted to, I could have set up a little
yeah.
area. It was very good of them. I thought it was very good in the day.
Yeah.
I think you can do it.
I've sketched at the Royal Ontario Museum. That was a number of years ago, but I did a lot of sketches of the armor there, and I think some of those ideas sort of found their way into ideas such as the picture we're looking at. So,
Are you a heraldry type of follower?
no,
Do you like anything like that?
no, this was really, I think, sort of a response to the pandemic. You know, feeling vulnerable, feeling like what's happening in our world, and are we safe, and those kinds of feelings,
Mm.
and kind of creating guardians and warriors to buoy myself up a little bit.
Yeah. I think it's nice that you're able to take found objects like that, and even if you're just an object you can't buy, but you run into something and say, "Oh, I'd like to bring that armor and put that into something." And
Yeah,
I find with sometimes it's, if I do that, I said, no, I need to commit myself to at least a dozen drawings. Like, it's hard to just do a one-off.
yeah,
They float away and they become nothing, even to yourself, as a fleeting memory. But if you can spend a little bit of time digging in on that piece a little bit to understand the pandemic, if that's the case.
yeah,
So I know a lot of artists have created pandemic works that probably have never been shown.
yeah,
They feel inhibited by it, but it was a cleansing that a lot of us had to go through, and frustration and all kinds of things that you probably had to, over those 2.5, 3 years.
yeah. A lot of worry and a lot of apprehension, especially before the vaccines gave us some sort of stability with the new virus. And the whole idea of other people being potentially harmful to us. We can't get close to anybody. They
Yeah.
might infect us. There was, I mean, in a way, it's real. That's what life on Earth is like too. But it was maybe the first time for us to really confront it in such a
Yeah, it affected artists a lot because we tend to like to hug, and just
That's true. That's true. We're
Yeah.
like that connection too.
we are, we there's that
It was disconnected.
thing on that
Yeah,
had that taken away on us a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
So this one's a really, you're drawing a landscape painting, but really vertical. Like it's like a slice of everything either pulled into one space and kind of piled up. It feels very, I'll say, Chinese or Japanese in structure, like
Mhm.
how they would build. Some stories are from the bottom, and then you just kind of turn and you look up and you see, how did this
Yeah.
one come about? Because there's really one at the bottom is a really detailed drawing at the
Yeah.
bottom, and then
That's
you
one
move
of the found objects, and I thought it resembled the structure of the coral-colored rocks along the shore. So I thought there was some synergy there between this very close-up object and the rocks, and then I did sketches at this location when I was in Newfoundland. I did this piece when I got back to Toronto in my studio, but I used the idea of the wind was just blowing everything. All the grasses and everything are just, it was just a blur of these beautiful colors.
Yeah.
But the rocks are steady and solid, and they don't move, of course. So you've got all this whirling motion of the grasses, and then this very set shape of the rocks at the shore, and then the water is in motion too. And then the actual horizon is a little bit curved, and that was sort of a fun little thing I did because I was in a place called Tilting, and I thought, that made it sort of a portrait of tilting. And then the whole thing is I've got lines and shapes and little dots of color and graphite to kind of connect it all together because when I was there, I was just walking this circular path every day and finding a different location to paint and draw in. And so the circle aspect of it was an important part of the experience. And then it has that dreamlike quality that we talked about earlier, Paul, that sort of fuzziness, some things, like in my dreams, some things are very solid, they're very recognizable, and there's all this fuzziness around them. There's all this other, the thing I'm dreaming about is very, very solid in my dream, but everything else is blurry. So this has sort of that quality to it.
Yeah. So when you go on those walks, are you always sourcing where you're going to be tomorrow or the next day? I got to come back here and do that one or that place.
Well, if you see something particularly beautiful, and we did, we would, when we were heading out the next day, we'd say, how about that, that little pond that we came across, or why don't we go right to the very, edge, right down to the very end of the headlands. And
those are romantic journeys. I mean, to be able to take that time and go and do those things. But I think we're telling people that you can do that anywhere, even in your city, or walk down the hallway in your apartment. You can come up with the mall if that's what you want to do. People are everywhere to draw. If you're a figurative people, you don't have to pay people.
I agree.
You can sit and draw in a cafe if you want and do your work, whatever you want to do. But
I agree. The mindset, you can just keep that same mindset. It doesn't matter. You can look around your own backyard the same way.
Exactly. Yeah. Actually, we had a conversation with one artist and did all his paintings from his backyard, basically, and they were beautiful.
Yeah.
Changing season, and he had an acreage, and he just looked left, right, or center, and up, down, and he said all from my own back. He never traveled anywhere but his backyard, basically.
Yeah, it's
what an amazing thing.
Worlds within worlds.
It is, yeah. Well, and when he was in Ontario as well, so the weather changes, and you get everything. One day you got leaves, one day you have color, next day you have gray.
Yeah, and it changes throughout the day, and that's something I really became aware of as a stained glass artist. A stained glass installation looks different every single day, every time you look at it, because the light is never constant. And
so this piece it felt very installation-like to me. Like there's a potential for an installation, and this is found objects again. And
this is a brain at the top.
Oh, the brain. Okay. Yeah.
With a suggestion of organization and repeated patterns and backdrop to that tangled heap of wires, which was a found object. That to me was my idea of how a brain works.
Mine do some days like that.
I don't know if mine actually works that way, but I thought, okay, that's my thinking about it. And then below, I actually bought red tubing and a little red plastic pump at, the hardware store, and I made kind of a rough heart that object and drew it carefully. And then I've got different kinds of energy, different way of being with lines that sort of radiate out. And I think there's embossed dots in there too. So the concept was they're working together, but they're not totally communicating on the same wavelength.
We have a bit of that today. There's a little bit of that going on. There's a heart and a brain that aren't working together.
Yeah, I think, I mean, they do work together, but they don't work together. So it's kind of interesting, that sort of push-pull and the contrast.
I like that. Yeah. And I always interject some things once in a while, what I see in objects, and it feels like there's this band-aid in the middle of the page that's holding everything together with this band-aid. And it's that square device that you have in there connecting the brain and the heart. Some days it feels like there's that connection piece that's holding everything together, dependent on that one space. So
Oh, that's interesting, Paul. Like that, I've got an orangey reddish backdrop to that piece, and then there's white perforated pattern on top, and I put them like as if the red one was slipping out of position, like the it should, and it's not square, like it is kind of falling. It's falling towards the heart. It isn't secure in its spot. So yeah, you've picked up on something there.
it's going through a white void. There's
Yeah,
a connection, but it's very blurry connection between the two. So,
yeah.
but it offers conversation, which is what it's about. So this is a very nice, vibrant piece. I love this. It's joyful. This piece really feels, especially just the drawings of the blossoms.
Yeah.
They could be birds, they could be flowers, they could be a lot of different things, but there's little effervescence of bubbles, that are coming out of the flowers, and the tractor-fed paper on the bottom, a feeling of tractor-fed paper, which is this technologies that are there that are, I don't know, juxtaposed to nature. And that's what I get out of the piece. And I've looked at this one a number of times before having the show, and just trying to figure out what this one was about.
Well, I think you've picked up on some stuff there. There's the backdrop with the grid that is of different sizes. It's not completely regular, so it's bigger on the left and smaller on the right. And then this sort of abstracted bouquet of white flowers. I thought white was an intriguing image because it sort of creates a hole in the composition, and you've got the color around it. So I was interested. I created a small series of watercolors that use different white flowers in that way. And then I've done some experimental things with it, the purple and red shapes that encircle the white flowers. I laid the wash on, and then I have a piece of what do you call it, chain mail.
Yeah.
And I let it sit on the wet paper, and it imparted that texture into the paper.
Yeah.
Which I also kind of mirrored in the way the leaves are handled with another texture. So kind of having some fun with the textures, and like you mentioned, that paper at the bottom with the holes in it. I actually use pieces of real paper with holes punched into them. I have a collection of them, and I bring them out. And I have baggies of dots. And so when I get to a certain point in the drawing, and I think, maybe I'll, sort of layer on another element, I bring these pieces of paper out, and I just put them on the watercolor. And if I like what I see, then I will transcribe that into the watercolor. And I toss dots into drawings sometimes to create some randomness. So yes, this is very playful, and I think you're right. It's very, very joyful and
well, it's a different way of looking at doing a floral presentation or a bouquet, and with some meaning. I mean, you can read a lot of things, and I love that the leaves are, they're not just like stamped. It belongs with the drawing, the style of the leaves and the textures that are in the leaves and the branches and things that are part of it. And no, there's nice depth, and I love it. Green is a tough color to deal with, so I just a lot
very
of people.
strong. Yeah, it can be really dominate.
It can, yeah. Oh, it's a nice drawing. Go back this one here. Now, this is part of that Van Gogh piece previously that we talked about, right? And this is is this part of your neighborhood as well?
Yeah. There's a little structure at the bottom of the park. Park's sort of in a bowl kind of shape, and this structure has a number of different functions. Here, there's a neighborhood festival going on in the summer, and people are gathered in the shade to enjoy music. And so you've got the shadiness of the trees, and then the dappled shade on this is a roadway that surface vehicles use to get down into the gazebo area. I've changed the coloring to kind of reference the Starry Night painting by Vincent. And then I call it "Will You Be There?" And that's a quote from one of my letters. So still sort of working with the conversational aspect of the project.
So have you written Vincent as well? Do you write back and forth a little bit relative to what he's written?
Sometimes, yeah. In the telephone booth piece, I think the quotes I used from his letters and the ones that I used from mine were kind of creating a back and forth there.
Yeah.
I really felt connected to him reading those letters. I felt like he was reaching through the ages and talking, to all of us who read his letters now. It was really an extraordinary experience to feel that the communication was now, not then.
There's been a few video things produced over the last couple of years on Vincent, and I guess trying to emulate that, trying to give a feeling of you walking through, some of the towns that he painted in some of those areas, in France. It was kind of you have to accept it. It's sort of like accepting animation and accepting that you believe and get into it. And once you're into it, then you can walk and see the videos on the wall and be a part of that experience, right? I think this is part of that experience. You've left this openness that I can walk into in this piece, and I feel like I could be a part of that conversation in that park.
It's a path right in there. It's a big sweeping path to come on in.
And we go into this nice little. This is very monochromatic. There's not a lot of color in this piece.
Yeah, this is a work that was inspired by being in Newfoundland and photographing a beach after high tide, and there was this wonderful undulating line of all kinds of seaweed and various other flotsam and jetsam, and I just found it extremely beautiful the way the waves had made this organization, and I did a series of drawings that are inspired by that, and I inserted found objects into that line. So this crushed Canada Dry can and the rake head are things that I found in other locations and worked into the line. And I centered the color, the most intense color, right at that line, right where the water deposited the individual objects. It as sort of an idea that that's a very it's a life-giving line. Where the sea and the land meet is probably where life began. Anyway, just was fascinated by the idea that the waves had created this beautiful composition. In my mind, it was beautiful. And then I augmented it with some of the objects I'd found, like the rake almost looked like a sea creature to me already. It was already transforming into something from the ocean. So it wasn't a big stretch to put it into that drawing. And I think I've done 8. I did 8 of these drawings.
And they're a full sheet of paper?
These are, how big are these? Yes, these are the same as the 44 by 30.
Okay. Oh, they're big.
Yeah.
I had to get to this piece, and we got to close up on this.
This is back to the idea of the warriors and the guardians. This is a piece that features reference to my two sisters and I. We were visiting the south of France, visited the castle of Carcassonne at night, so I've placed that nighttime view behind us. And in another castle, we were looking over the objects in the museum in the castle, and one of them was a helmet. So we took turns putting the helmet on and photographing ourselves. and
Nice.
and then I arranged us in front of the nighttime view, and I was trying to show us as, we're tough and we're a team, but there's some vulnerability there too that I tried to suggest with the if you can see our skeletons a little bit through our clothing.
Okay. Yeah. That's fun. That's a fun
There's
piece.
another sort of COVID-inspired piece, but yeah, that's the backstory on that. That's Sister Warriors.
This is one of our last pieces here. We'll conclude.
And then,
Again, the repetition of these dots and this patterning, that's the connection from left to right, and
yeah,
the sucker motifs on the left side, and I love those. Little shot of color.
and chaos, a chaotic pile of the suckers, and then actually on the right, they're very faint, but they've been organized into rows. You just see the sticks through the white area of the picture, and the color has been blurred by the background, but they've undergone some kind of transformation there from left to right, which I like all those kinds of themes.
It feels very sciencey in a loose way,
Yeah.
There's structure and there's this organic shapes as well, but they're almost neuron type things that are happening.
Yeah.
I like that. It's kind of
There's
fun.
information, the lollipops, you can really look at them and gather a lot of information, and then the information fades. There's a lot of places where you just get a suggestion of what's going on, but you don't see all that's going on. And
It asks a lot of questions, and I think that's really what a lot of we like people to understand what we're doing, but we also want it to make them come back a number of times to see a piece of work. And if they get the story all in one go, it's really not the right way. It's nice when they come back multiple times. Well, Jane, we're short. We're right on the end of our show. I really appreciate. We're going to definitely have to have you back again, and we will talk about some of your journey. We'll bring David back in here, and we'll conclude. But I think it's, it's kind of a magic journey, that we've had, and
thank you.
I've enjoyed our conversation. Yeah.
Me too. Thanks very much.
Well, David, what do you think?
Well, I'm just wondering where you can find people's brains to get thrown away. That's the only thing.
Throwing people's
that's the thing
brains
that
away.
disturbed me somewhat, Jane.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
I like that.
Well, there you go. That's just me.
Okay.
But, well, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, Paul, again for another wonderful guest.
I had a great time. Good conversation.
I'd just like to say to everybody, if you like Canadian Art Today, then don't forget to tune in every week or subscribe and like, and to get the alert. Subscribe to the station. You can you'll get the alert every time that the show comes on. And we look forward to more wonderful guests. And again, Jane, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
A little bit of Van Gogh as well, which is always interesting, to say the very least. So
we'll be
until
back.
the next time. Sorry, Paul.
We'll be back again next week. We have a new artist as well, and definitely join us. We'll have another person. But in the meantime, tune into Jane's work and drop by her website, see what she's got going on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I forgot to ask the most important question this week. Did I not? We've got like 2 minutes just to rush in. Jane, if we wanted to purchase some of your work, could you give us some sort of guesstimate as between what sort of prices that people will be paying for it?
Well, I have a lot of work available through the Civil La Raza Gallery in Beaumont, and there's small pieces. I think I didn't show any of those in this conversation, but I believe they're $250, and then the larger pieces are $2,100. So
Okay.
there's various price points along that line.
Well, we won't hold you to it because we always say to everybody it's a bit of a guesstimate, and but that's of course that's the question everybody wants to know at the end of the show. And it's so important I even forgot it. I'm still my brain's still turning around to think where did she find
where did I get
that threat? But it was I was gonna say judging by my performance today, it's probably my brain that you found.
Well, careful, David. She's looking for brains, so you might.
Well, she's looking in the wrong place here. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, everybody. Until the next time on Canadian Art Today. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thanks.